Hey everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and today we're going through a crucial game for Nebraska football, Purdue, this upcoming week. So today we're going through the X factors, the keys, and everything in between about what's going to decide this game. And there is going to be a lot to go through. So without further ado, Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. You know, Michigan plays Purdue in next week, and I've actually already spied on them for Michigan.
Wow.
So I actually have all of the calls, all the hand signals down. And so, yeah, I actually, in the mail. I feel, so I've just, magically, I've seen some things, and I actually feel really prepared for this breakdown more than others because I've been helping Michigan out.
Makes sense.
I really appreciate all the money that they've sent me for this too. So
yes,
they've really helped fund the channel.
Generous.
Appreciate you, Harbaugh.
Yes. So obviously it's going to be a fun one. And, let's start broad here with the game. Right now, the line is Nebraska's favored by 2.5 and it opened at 3.5. So it's been bet down a little bit. Obviously, there's been some bad news coming out, Nebraska injuries. We'll talk about that in a second. Which is part of the reason why the line was bet down. And the over-under right now, the points is at 40.5. So obviously a low-scoring game. It's supposed to be some tough weather. So, it makes sense that this is going to be a grinder-out type of Big Ten game. And, PFF power rankings right now, Nebraska's 53rd, Purdue 69th. So they do see some They do see some differences there. And I think that's, interesting place to start here. So with Purdue on its offensive side, we can kind of go from here. What are your thoughts on what they bring to the table here? Of course, Hudson Card is coming in as a transfer, and it's been a mixed bag. So what are your thoughts on the offense? Let's start with Hudson Card.
Yeah, I mean, at times he's looked really good. He has 1,617 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. And the positives, the pros for Hudson Card, obviously his legs and his ability to extend the play. But I think that can also be his Achilles heel in the same light. Sometimes he does too much in the pocket, and that's really caused problems as well for the offense. Sometimes, he extends the play, makes a really nice move. I remember one against Iowa again where he just converts a very big third and long, and then other times, he extends the pocket too long, and then he'll just kind of chuck the ball in the air. I'm so surprised more of them have not gotten picked off, because he'll just yeet. Just right after the play, extending it. While he looks really good in the intermediate passing, especially with Purdue's weapons, which we will get to, the deep ball really hasn't been there for him this season as much. So a lot of the big yard passing plays have actually come on those intermediate passes to like Deion Burks. And the long ball I felt has been inaccurate. I really think that's where a lot of some of those picks have come from. On some of those deep passes.
His ability inside the 10-yard kind of area, he's impressive to say the least. Timing is there. The velocity of the throws is there. They convert consistently on these quick dime routes, these slants and 5-yard digs, things like this that just look real nice. But then suddenly when you start throwing downfield, it's been inconsistent. They've hit a few times, obviously, but it's basically one of the only areas where Hudson Card struggles, because in basically everything else, he's a middling Big Ten quarterback. But right now in the country, he's currently ranked 120th in yards of 20 or in passes of 20 yards downfield. So that's basically the biggest question right now, and goes to show why you really need to find ways to get Purdue into third and longs. Well, I'm sure we'll mention that in the X factors. But yeah, basically that's what you got to know about Card is he is dangerous when you move the pocket, mobile towards the sidelines. He looks incredible. But when you start throwing downfield, there's some opportunities there for Nebraska.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, he has a lot of really good wide receiver weapons. Sheffield and again, Deion Burks, who is also, he wears number 4. He looks like a Rondale Moore-esque character. He has 27 receptions for 418 yards and 5 touchdowns.
So dangerous after the catch.
And yeah, and they have some good running backs as well, obviously headed up by Devin Mockabee on the offense, who we saw break out against us last year, but he has 478 yards and 4 touchdowns this season. Again, has been another really solid contributor. Their offense too, on the edges, on the rushes, they're trying to run on the outside. That seems to be their strength on the offensive line, and they've gotten a lot of really good blocks, and a lot of their big run plays have come, again, trying to move on the edge, use their speed, And that's really been Purdue's strength this season, and that's when they're at their best.
The weapons they have are just incredibly dangerous with the ball in their hands. And so it makes sense that they aren't really trying to push the ball downfield. It's not their strength. It's not where their weapons are most effective. I mean, right now, offensively, they're 34th in passing attempts per game, but 62nd in pass yards per game. So it goes to show like the low amount of yards per completion, yards per attempt that they're kind of converting here. I mean, overall, Card has done a good job of taking care of the ball for the most part, 38th in interception percentage. And like you said, with the weapons, I mean, it's a pretty nice balanced offense. You have a 3 deep there of Burks, TJ Sheffield, and Vasine. Surprising to me that their offense hasn't put up more points than they have, considering their weapons. But it's been a mix of a poor offensive line play at time, Card trying to do too much, and inefficient running. And they've also had some injuries as well. I mean, on film, immediately Tyrone Tracy jumped off the page as a dynamic, physical, quick running back, but he's been banged up and had problems at times. And so when he has the ball in his hands, he looks great. And I really think this guy is going to be a stud. And so you got to watch out for him every time he touches the ball. And he's really emerged this year later on in his career as a guy that they can trust with the ball in his hands. So I'm impressed with the playmakers they have. What do you think is the biggest issue for why they're not putting up more points? I mean, right now they're 103rd in points per play and 98th in yards per play, even though they have great weapons and a respectable quarterback.
I think part of it is the special teams. Their kicking hasn't been great this year on converting some of those points. And yeah, I think just in the red zone, again, everything just kind of bunches up for them. And again, their offensive line hasn't been elite in blocking. It is best, when there's a lot of open space and you have to account for all their weapons. But as the field kind of gets smaller for them, some of those weaknesses and flaws really come into play.
They're currently 124th in the country in red zone scoring percentage at just 69.23%. Nice. So it's that is the struggle for sure. And so we'll see how effective they can be against a defense that likes to stifle up in the red zone. So, okay, on the defensive side, what are you seeing here with Purdue? They seem to be a respectable group, but what do they do best? Yeah,
it is definitely the pass rush for them. Kydron Jenkins and Nick Scorton, they're linebackers, lead their team in sacks. Jenkins has 5. Scorton has 4.5 sacks, 9.5 between them on the linebackers. Jenkins has 33 QB hurries. And they also, their highest graded player is their nose tackle, Mo Omanode, and he has 12 QB hurries again, which is a really solid amount for a nose tackle as big as he is. And he is definitely disruptive on the plays on those inside runs. When you can double team him effectively and get some blocks on the inside, that is really where a lot of teams have seen success though. Because it's these outside linebackers that are so successful at the pass rush. They like to run bare. They like 5 guys on that line of scrimmage. And it's those inside runs when they can get overzealous on the runs. That's really where the weakness is.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, that's because Ryan Walters, obviously Illinois' defensive coordinator last year, came over to Purdue this year. So now their head coach. And he brought a lot of the positional coaches from Illinois with him. And so this defense definitely is starting to show those signs. It looks, they play like the Illinois defense last year, but they obviously don't have the personnel that Illinois had last year. But like you said,
nobody does.
Well, right. That, to say the least. Like overall, I think Omanode and like all of these guys, they really do know how to get to the quarterback, and they've been an effective pass rushing team. And so that obviously, like you said, is where their strength is. Right now, 27th in sack percentage on the year, and even better hurry percentage. So
I got 21 sacks as a team on the year. That's a good amount.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nothing like Nebraska, but it's a respectable amount. The problem is outside of pass rush, they don't really jump off the page in anything else. They're pretty average tacklers. Downfield, they had some big time problems, and in coverage, maybe where they've been worse this year, even though they have some really talented players in the secondary, but it's been a mixed bag for them in coverage this season.
Yeah, they've looked good in spots, but again, like Wisconsin, Mordecai was tearing them up, and again, PFF has them ranked very low in pass coverage on the season, which is a little surprising at times. But then you watch the Wisconsin game, and then you watch obviously Ohio State, and they just get torn apart. So it makes some sense. But again, everybody gets torn apart by Marvin Harrison Jr. So how much can you take from that? Exciting for our young wide receivers that they'll have an opportunity to really be a factor in this game. For Nebraska, as we're going to talk about here, I mean, as an X factor, oh my goodness, the injury bug, right?
Dude, it's unbelievable.
What on earth is happening? It's I try to think of other years, and there's been times where we lose like a solid amount of guys on the season, but nothing to this level of like attrition. It's
unbelievable.
Unreal.
It really is.
I mean, and to lose 3 offensive linemen in 1 week, that's crazy. 3 of our 5 starting offensive linemen go down 1 week.
And 2 are season enders.
Yeah. Turner's out for the season. Piper's out for the season. And then Wheelie's out for a little bit. Thank goodness he's the one because he's been our best offensive lineman. He's only out for a couple weeks, but still.
And then Billy Kemp went down.
Offensive line.
7, 8 if you count bets before the season. So it's unbelievable. And Jeff Sims was a starter going into the year. So the transition from spring game and Minnesota game to now is unbelievable. So obviously that's the biggest X factor starting this thing off is the offensive line play for Nebraska. And what's that going to look like now that Henry Lutovsky is coming in and we have Justin Evans-Jenkins coming in and Teddy Prohaska coming in at left tackle to replace Turner Corcoran. I mean, what are your initial thoughts here? Is this sound the alarms? Or can this group figure it out quick?
It's tough. So Lutovsky, when he played on the tackle position, did not look good. But on the inside of the line, we'll see what happens.
At least it wasn't a sinking ship.
Evans-Jenkins actually looked really good when he came and filled in for Ben Scott. So that's a plus. That's exciting. I have some confidence going into this week, knowing that he looked good and actually in the future too, knowing that, again, he looked solid in this game. Again, this is a big challenge for us when we have good pass rush. And,
it's so hard.
The honesty is Turner Corcoran.
A wash.
It's like, I mean, I'm not going to say, could it really be worse? Because it could always be worse, I guess.
And that's the question, though, is that Prohaska on the season, though, this season, when he's played when he came in, has not been good. Obviously, some would counter that he's still been recovering from the injury, and it's been a slow process, and that's why it's been taking so long. So hopefully that thing's healthy and he's feeling good because he's got to come in and play well right away against, again, the second best pass rushing team we've played this season besides Michigan. So it's a scary matchup in that regard where
especially
Lutovsky,
when they're fast. Yeah.
Right. When Lutovsky on the snaps he's played looked absolutely horrible. Prohaska's not looked good. And so you're going to have a unit come in here and they haven't played together. This group of 5 has never played together before. So oh man, it's an X factor that no one knows how it's going to play out, but you have to at least fade Nebraska at least a little bit with that type of news, not to mention losing Billy Kemp. So Jaden Doss is going to be the starting slot receiver. And so right now this offense, I mean, how many points can we put up in a game like this? So that's scary to say the least. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a Frankenstein of a team. We have just taken body parts and shoved it together to see what will happen. And hopefully we create a monster for the other team and not ourselves. Yeah. It's wild. I've never seen anything like, maybe like, again, like the backup, like Sam Sledge or Galata, like if they're not going well, hopefully some of those guys step up. They're going to have opportunities to be on the field, these young guys. Matt Rhule, he was just in shock in the press conference, which makes a lot of sense. I was in shock too. I think that the coaches do a really good job of evaluating talent thus far as the season has gone on. So hopefully we find the best ways to find their strengths because, it's definitely a question mark.
Yeah. So when it comes to how we're going to actually attack this defense with this offensive line, I mean, if there's ever a game where we're going to have to rely on running the quarterback, it's going to be a game like this. I mean, we saw Tanner Mordecai even have tons of success. Obviously, a read option when you have a back like Wisconsin does, it's a little bit more threatening.
Braylon Allen's scaling.
You're gonna fade towards Braylon Allen's side of the field. But Mordecai was ripping off runs against Purdue in that game and had tons of rushing yards. I can't remember how many it was, but it was a lot. And so, when it comes to success, I mean, obviously, if you're Purdue's defense, you're gonna be planning for this because you're gonna see Heinrich Harburg and he's gonna want to carry the ball. But inevitably, we saw in the Iowa game, They even had success moving the ball by getting the pocket moving and getting Deacon Hill out towards the sidelines and attacking towards the edge. That's where we can try to have success as well and utilize our playmakers. Like, obviously, Fedoni's going to have to really step up in a game like this. So I'm looking for utilizing play action as much as possible, while, of course, also try and just utilize the legs of Heinrich Harburg. Yeah,
100%. I agree. And, maybe some of these big sets for us can work a little bit here. I mean, we might have to go full Air Force and just be a speed option. We just be a triple option baby. Team.
Yeah.
Like, we at this point, we have just depleted so much that, I mean, we're gonna have to be really creative to find ways to score. But yeah, I think Heinrich Harburg's legs are for sure the X factor for this game. If we want to win, it is going to come on the back of his legs. And luckily, I think that we have a good opportunity to be able to do that. And I think Emmett Johnson has looked good where I'm convinced that he can be good in this game. And I want to see him carry the ball more than even an Anthony Grant this year too. I think he has more explosiveness, and we really need that on the offense at this point.
Obviously, when you have those many questions on the offensive line, then you have to start worrying about what our turnover situation could look like offensively. We all know Nebraska has not been good at keeping the ball off the ground, and we're currently 130th in interception percentage, on 122nd in giveaways per game. And on the defensive side, we're only 96th in takeaways per game. So on the opposite side, though, Purdue is 78th in takeaways per game and 70th in giveaways. So a lot better in both aspects. Inevitably, turnovers are always the biggest X factor in any game, but I am, even more worried in a game like this, where you have missing offensive linemen, you have freshmen playing a wide receiver. It feels almost inevitable that we're going to have multiple turnovers in this game, and that's what gets me pretty worried. I mean, we're going to have to find ways to get Card in trouble. And we saw on the defensive side when it comes to an X factor, I mean, how do you think we get these guys off the field, especially when it comes to forcing Hudson Card into third and longs and forcing him to throw deep?
Yeah, it's winning on first down and, again, being able to get to the quarterback, again, who he can extend the plays well. So it's going to, on our linebackers, a lot is going to fall on them. And then in man coverage, these wide receivers are dangerous. And we like to see that, again, we like to send a lot of blitzes. I'll be interested to see how Tony White schemes this one up if we do send less pressure and we are dropping back in a little bit more coverage.
I could see that happening.
I really see that maybe that is the play for this game. And then these blitzes are going to be more, not gimmicky, but, some of those where we think that we have an advantage to get them off sides, more sparing than in games past, just because Hudson Card is good on the intermediate and that is where they can kill us.
So maybe it'll be more how we schemed against Michigan, just to try to keep the game in front of us and basically just not get burned quick.
I'd say more like Colorado at times.
That's fair.
Again, their offensive line isn't amazing. They're again, according to PFF, and in the 70s. We'll still have a chance to get to the quarterback to blow up plays to make a difference. I still think we'll be plenty aggressive, but they do have more offensive weapons where I don't think, like in Illinois, where we can just be sending 5-6 guys every time. I'm not expecting that as much, but I think our defense, it is going to fall on some of these guys, our linebackers and corners in coverage to make some plays, to make a takeaway. And Hudson Card, he does throw balls that 100% can be picked, and we will have a couple opportunities to make a play this game.
Yeah, no, for sure. It'll be interesting because Hartzog's moving to safety now, which is interesting. And on the depth chart, it looks like he's going to be starting over Omar Brown, and Phelan Sanford's actually going to be out there on the field. So that's a surprise. Crazy. But I think that might come from the matchups they see with the speed here for Purdue. They probably want Tommy Hill on the field. And that means that he has to play corner, which means you have to move Hartzog back to safety. So it is a little bit surprising, though, that Phelan's going to be on the field. And maybe that, again, comes down to athleticism and speed. And maybe that's what Purdue, or that's what the coaching staff's seeing right now, is that we can out-athlete Purdue, or at least compete with them on the defensive side. Then we're going to be in a really good spot. So that's what I'm interested to see for sure in this game. So when it comes to predictions, what are your thoughts on this game? How do you see it going down? 2.5 point spread. Again, 40 point over under.
We've continued to see Nebraska survive and adapt even under these crazy situations through the season. Okay. I think being at home is very important. And This defense has given up a lot of points Purdue has given up a lot of points. which is encouraging. And our defense has played well, and we haven't really lost anything there. It falls a lot on the defense. We have given short field position away a lot because of our offense. I think it's on our defense to be able to flip this field for us, to not allow them to get drives. And I think that's the key to the game, and how well can Heinrich Haarberg run the ball, because I think he's due a big game for us on that, and we're going to really need to see that if we want to pull out this game. And I think we do. I think Nebraska gets another win, its third win in a row.
Oh my goodness.
It's going to be a grinder of a game. I think it'll be a little higher scoring just because I think Purdue's defense is a little bit worse, and also Purdue's offense is a little bit better, so I think they're going to score some more points. But I think Nebraska pulls this one 24-17.
Dude, this has been, I mentioned this before, but this is the toughest game for me this whole season since Minnesota. Because with the offensive line injuries, it's just such an X factor. And it creates such a variable that you don't know how it's going to perform. Because I genuinely am worried this offensive line could be, beyond horrible. That it could be the worst thing we've ever seen. And if that's the case, then suddenly we're talking about this offense literally not moving the ball at all. The good news is that, Purdue's defense isn't as suffocating as some of the other defenses that we could be facing this week coming off of a devastating injury.
Even a Northwestern,
right. Or, Illinois. Like if this happened before Illinois, I'd be really, 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 really worried. But again, their pass rush is still really good and better than Illinois or Northwestern's. So that's my issue here.
But if you don't pass, they can't pass rush.
Big brain. Fair enough. And so if that's the case, if we can actually find success on the ground, then play actions how you move the ball deep. And we saw that again against Purdue from both Iowa and Wisconsin, and Illinois in the game that they played. So even in the small amount of success that Illinois had. Again, Purdue is not a team you can sleep on.
No, they're good. They have a solid offense.
They're 2-5, but they've played really good competition. They lost to Fresno State, which was not a good loss, 39-35 beginning of the year. And then they lost to Syracuse 35-20, lost to Wisconsin 38-17. Then they beat Illinois 44-19 in a dominating performance, which we were both really impressed by when we watched it. And then they lost at Iowa and then Ohio State. So they've had a really tough go of it. And then they play us in Michigan. So this has been a tough year for Purdue, a tough first year for Ryan Walters. I got to be honest, I'm really worried about this game. This game. We genuinely might lose this game like 10-7. Solely because of turnovers is why we give up 10. And I do like the narrative. The defense is obviously the defense is the X factor. I'm confident this defense is going to keep them in check. And I'd be shocked if Purdue had more than 20. I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
The question is, I don't think Nebraska scored more than 20. So I've been going between two numbers, and it's 13-10 Purdue or 14-13 Nebraska. And I've been going back and forth on these two. And this offensive line is just genuinely so scary. We're starting with basically 4 freshmen out at wide receiver. I don't know if we're going to be able to score points. We might turn the ball over 4 times. That's genuinely my worry. So I'm going to pick Purdue to win 13-10. And a devastating, such a disappointing game. I'm sorry, Husker Nation, but the injuries are just too scary for me at this point. And we'll see what happens. I genuinely, of course, hope I'm wrong. I hope Nebraska's defense is that good. I hope we force turnovers and Hudson Card throws picks, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. So there you go, Husker Nation. Drop your comments down below. Obviously, want to hear what you guys have to say. And we dropped the Homestead Store. So go check out the Homestead Store. The merch is fire. I'm wearing it right now. And it's been awesome. Obviously, we got some great orders and some good feedback. So we appreciate you guys for all of that. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Big Red Homestead. And guys, we'll see you next time. Go Big Red, baby. Red.